Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Ronald. I believe that when you genuinely love someone and treat them with care, it should mean something. But that's not how things played out for me. I fell deeply in love with a girl named Maria. I wasn't perfect, but I was genuine. I had hoped that being there for her would open her eyes. It didn't. Despite all the love, the care, and the loyalty I showed her, Maria didn't choose me. She walked a different path with another guy, and I didn't try to chase her. I let her go, even though it hurt. I thought that was it for us. But life has its way of spinning the wheel when you least expect it. Just when I had started to believe that chapter was closed, she came back. And with her return came a whole storm of emotions, memories, and decisions I didn't see coming. What happened next? Let's just say it wasn't what either of us had in mind. I met Maria back in high school. We were from the same small town, went to the same school, and probably crossed paths more times than I could count. But to her, I was just another quiet face in the hallway. For me, though, she stood out. Always had. She wasn't loud or showy, but people noticed her anyway. Especially the guys. She had a certain type she seemed to go for. I wasn't one of them. I wasn't the popular one or the smooth talker. I'd see her at school events or in the cafeteria, always surrounded by people. And even though I liked her, I convinced myself early on that she was out of my league. We barely spoke back then. Maybe a few casual hellos or the occasional, "excuse me," when we passed each other in the hallway. Nothing more. I kept my distance not because I didn't care, but because I figured there was no point trying. I told myself she wouldn't even notice me. So I watched from afar. Silently wished I had the courage to tell her how I felt, but never did. I believed that no matter how genuine my feelings were, girls like Maria would always choose the louder, flashier option. It built this quiet insecurity in me, one I carried into college without even realizing it. But funny enough, life doesn't always stick to the same script. Because years later, Maria and I would end up at the same college. When I think about how everything unfolded, college was where it really began. We moved from being familiar strangers to something that, at the time, felt a lot like destiny. After all those years of seeing her from a distance back in high school, I never imagined we'd end up at the same university. Different departments, yeah, but the same campus. And somehow, that made all the difference. At first, I wasn't even sure she remembered me. I mean, we had barely exchanged more than a few words in high school. But in college, we bumped into each other one day after a lecture and had a quick hello. But that turned into a casual conversation. Then another. Then, before I knew it, we were spending real time together. I got to know the version of Maria that wasn't surrounded by noise and attention. She was real, funny, and fragile in ways I never saw back then. She even opened up about her relationship. She was still with her high school boyfriend when we got into college, but from everything she shared, it was already falling apart. The guy had emotionally checked out the minute she stepped into a new chapter. He said he couldn't handle the distance and didn't see the point. I could tell it was hurting her more than she admitted. She kept trying to hold onto something that was already slipping away. And in the middle of all that, she leaned on me. I became that person for her, the one who was always there. When she had a bad day, she came to me. When she had a fight with him, I was the one who heard about it first. I never did any of those things to impress her or score points. I just did them because I cared, because it hurt to see her in pain. But the truth is, I was also wrestling with my feelings for her. I was falling for her in silence. And no matter how many times people around me joked about me being the nice guy or said I was wasting my time, I couldn't stop myself. I just loved her while quietly and patiently hoping one day she'd see it. By the time we were in our second year, she officially ended things with her long-distance boyfriend. I'll admit, I felt hope when she told me. But within what felt like days, she jumped into another relationship with some guy in her department. And just like that, the space we had started to shrink. She stopped replying to my texts as quickly. The plans we used to make suddenly got postponed, then canceled. Conversations that used to stretch for hours turned into short, polite replies. I didn't want to believe it, but I could feel her drifting away. Again. And the worst part? I started to question myself. I wondered why she couldn't see the way I looked at her. Why couldn't she feel it in every small thing I did for her? Eventually, I decided to step back because I couldn't keep standing that close to someone who kept choosing others. I needed to protect my peace. So I stopped initiating conversations and focused on school. I tried to silence that part of me that still hoped. Out of nowhere, she messaged me one day. It was during our third year. She complained about how draining her current relationship was. She noticed I had been distant and wanted to know why. That moment was my chance to be honest, and I took it. I told her the truth, that I had feelings for her, that everything I ever did came from a place of love, even if I never said it outright. And I told her that I pulled back because it hurt to feel invisible. I told her I felt taken for granted. She listened and said I was sweet, kind, and rare. But then she followed it up with a line I'd heard too many times. She didn't want to ruin the friendship. That crushed me, because it confirmed what I feared all along. I was just the safe place, the comfort zone, never the first choice. I told her I couldn't keep pretending I was okay being just friends. Not with everything I felt. And right when the conversation got too heavy for her, she changed the subject, talked about something else. After that day, I backed off for real. I didn't cut her off completely, but I stopped showing up like I used to. I stopped making myself so emotionally available. Months passed. I stayed focused on school. I tried to find my own footing again. And even though a part of me still loved her, another part started to learn what it meant to love myself, too. After months of silence, I started noticing something about Maria. There were changes in the way she messaged me. She started using pet names, which she never used to do. Her tone got warmer, softer, like the kind of tone you use when you miss someone. At first, I didn't know what to make of it. Part of me wanted to believe she was just being friendly, maybe trying to patch up the distance that had grown between us. But another part of me hoped this meant she was finally starting to see me. I told myself not to overthink it, but the truth is, when you've loved someone quietly for that long, it doesn't take much to stir those feelings back up. So I watched her closely. I didn't dive back in head first, but I started replying a little quicker. I matched her energy a bit. Then one day, through casual talk with someone in her department, I found out that she had broken up with her departmental boyfriend. It all made sense why she was suddenly coming closer again. I started telling myself, maybe this is it. Now that she's no longer tied to someone else, she'll finally give me a real chance. I didn't confront her about the breakup directly. I didn't want her to feel like I was preying on her vulnerability. Instead, I let things unfold naturally. I kept showing up for her in the way I always had. She was laughing more around me again, sending voice notes that sounded like the old days, before everything got complicated. But even in that warmth, I was cautious. I didn't ask her out again right away. I had been through the hurt before, and I didn't want to feel that again, not if I could help it. So I waited. I watched. I paid attention to how she spoke about her ex, to whether she seemed truly ready to move on. I wanted to believe in her. I couldn't be the guy who kept setting himself on fire just to keep someone else warm. At the beginning of our final year, I felt the time was right. I couldn't carry the weight of everything I had kept buried over the years anymore. I had been holding onto my feelings for Maria for too long. We had a quiet moment one evening, just the two of us sitting outside near the old art block benches. For a second, everything felt like it could actually go right. That's when I decided to make my move. I took a deep breath and finally said the words I had been rehearsing in my head for what felt like years. I told her I had feelings for her that had grown slowly, quietly, and honestly. I told her I had always tried to show her, not just say it, through every gesture, every moment I stood by her when others walked away. I wasn't trying to pressure her. I just needed her to know, because I couldn't keep pretending anymore. She looked at me for a moment, silent, like she was choosing her words carefully. Then she said it, "Ronald, I love you, but it's like a brother." That one sentence hit me like a punch to the chest. I didn't even know how to respond. All I could do was nod slowly, feeling my heart tighten as the rest of her words blurred into noise. In that moment, everything became clear. I was never going to be the one. I was never going to be seen the way I saw her. I stood up quietly, not wanting to make a scene. I walked away from her that night, knowing deep down that I couldn't keep giving myself to someone who would never choose me. Weeks later, I found out through campus gossip that she had started dating another guy. He was effortlessly charming. Maria looked happy with him, or at least that's how it seemed from the outside. They were suddenly everywhere together, holding hands at campus events, showing up to parties as a couple, being tagged in photos that spread fast among our circles. Their relationship became a thing people talked about. They were the it couple now. I didn't want to be bitter, but it was hard not to feel the sting. That's when I knew I had to let go for real. I deleted her number from my phone. I stopped watching her stories. I erased the chat history and cleared out the photos I still had saved. I threw myself into my final year work, trying to keep my head down and stay focused. But the thing about love is, it doesn't just vanish because you want it to. Some days, it crept back in through little cracks when I walked past places we used to go or heard her laugh across a hallway. And in those quiet, aching moments, I would remind myself it hurt. Not because she owed me anything, but because I gave her the purest thing I had, and she handed it to someone else. From that point on, I stopped waiting for her to see what had always been right in front of her. With just about a month left before our graduation, my phone lit up with a call from an unsaved number one night. At first, I stared at it. A part of me didn't even want to pick up, but I answered anyway. The voice on the other end was familiar. Maria sounded casual, like we were old friends picking up where we left off. She asked how I was doing, acting like there was no awkward history between us. But the moment I heard her voice, my guard shot up. I didn't return the energy. I kept my answers short, polite, but cold. For the first time, I didn't let my feelings betray me. I could tell it caught her off guard. She eventually asked if we could meet up. Just catch up a bit, she said. I paused for a moment, then gave her the simplest excuse I could, one that was also true. I've got school deadlines. Can't really make time right now. She said she understood, and the call ended. She wasn't used to hearing no from me. She wasn't used to me being unavailable. It didn't take long before I found out what was behind that call. Word got around. Turns out, her relationship had crashed and burned again. She caught her new boyfriend cheating, and to make it worse, he didn't even try to deny it. He humiliated her in public, made a whole scene about it, and left her standing there, looking lost and shattered. The guy she chose over me had played her, just like I always feared he would. And suddenly, her reaching out made sense. She wasn't calling because she missed me. She wasn't calling because she realized how much I meant to her. She was calling because she was hurting again, and I had always been the safe space, the emotional cushion, the guy who patched her up when someone else tore her down. This time, though, I wasn't offering that comfort. Not anymore. Because even if I still had love for her somewhere in the corners of my heart, I knew I couldn't keep being her backup plan. I deserved more than that. Days later, Maria came to my place. I wasn't expecting anyone, but when I heard the knock and opened the door, there she was. For a second, it felt like time paused. If this had been a few months ago, I probably would have smiled, stepped aside, and let her in like I always did. But not that day. Not anymore. I didn't open the door wide. I didn't let her cross into my space. That was my first boundary. I stood in the doorway, looking at her, and waited for her to speak. She seemed caught off guard by how cold I was. She wasn't used to that. She started off slow, saying, "I know I messed up. I know I took your presence for granted." She kept going, saying I was the only man who had treated her right. All the others either played her, used her, or hurt her. And she said she could see that now. That, out of everyone, I had always been good to her. That I never asked for anything in return. That I always just cared. She asked for forgiveness. Not just for overlooking me, but for only realizing my worth after she'd been broken. Then she said she missed us. And then she added, "I remember how safe I felt with you." That was the moment I realized she wasn't just here to apologize. She wanted to rewind everything and pretend we could pick up from where we left off. But things weren't the same. I wasn't the same. I took a breath and told her, gently but firmly, that I'm no longer playing the nice guy role. That version of me is gone. But she didn't let me finish. She jumped in, desperate now, saying, "But I want you now. I know what I want, and it's you." There was a time I would have done anything to hear her say those words. But I didn't feel what I thought I would. I didn't feel joy or victory. So I looked her in the eyes and told her I didn't want her anymore. She froze, like I had knocked the wind out of her. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. For the first time in all the years I'd known her, she had no comeback. No clever way to redirect the conversation. Just silence. That moment wasn't easy for me. Saying those words to someone I'd loved for so long. It hurt. But I had to. Because I realized she didn't choose wrong out of ignorance. It wasn't that she didn't know how I felt. She knew. She just didn't value it. She chose what excited her, not who cared for her. Twice. What's to say it wouldn't happen again? So I asked her to leave. And she did with no more words. After graduation, she reached out a few times. Sent messages, tried to make small talk. Maybe she thought time would soften things. But I never gave her that space again. I'd learned something valuable. I deserved someone who chose me the first time. I wish her the best, truly. I hope she heals, finds happiness, and finds herself. But that journey won't include me. That chapter in my life is closed. And I'm at peace with that. Maria was someone I cared deeply about, and for a long time, I held on to the hope she'd see me for who I truly was. But here's what I've come to understand. Just because your love is genuine doesn't mean it's going to be returned. And that's not your fault. It doesn't make your love any less real. It just means some people aren't meant to carry it. What I went through taught me something I'll never forget. Self-respect isn't about being hard or distant. It's about knowing your worth and not begging someone to see it. You can't keep showing up for someone who only opens the door when everyone else has walked away. And as much as it hurt to tell her no, to walk away from someone I loved, I had to. Because love without respect isn't love. So, to anyone out there watching, please hear me when I say this. You are not a second option. If someone can't choose you when you're right in front of them, they don't deserve to find you still waiting when life humbles them. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to heal. And as always, thank you for watching.